feedback.
What's your live again? Live. You're live.
Okay, we like just sorry about this. I think we got some feedback. So if you have got your phone, for now, if everyone can mute their speakers, so it's just like Zoom. You can press mute, or Shoaib, if you can mute everyone, because there seems to be some kind of feedback coming. I think that's better.
Bismillah.
Okay. Thank you. الحمد لله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد بارك وسلم سليا. After praising God Almighty and sending salutations upon the beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, my dear respected viewers of Deep Blood Community Association YouTube channel, thank you for joining us. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi barakatuh. May peace and blessings and mercy be upon you all. Amin. And marhaba, we welcome you all for another program, another topic of Deep Community Association Neighborhood Watch channel. And today is a very, very important topic which we must all unite together and deal with. And the moment we got two of our respected guests are already joined us. We welcome them. Julia from Peterborough, who is the founding member of the Windrush Generation and Descendant Peterborough. And we got Dr. Ziauddin Khan, who is from our expert on urology and from the Blackpool Victoria Hospital. He has joined us previously as well, and we thank both guests for joining us bang on time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. So the program, as you know, that we have been advertising, and the program is standing together or united. Let's get united against racism. So we've got some topics and we've got some questions already sent in by the public. But before we do that, before we go to our guests, we're gonna just look at as a blessing. We always recite a little portion of the Quran related to the topic, and it's a universal message. So regardless of what faith you follow, it's a message for all humanity. For the blessings, I will recite in Arabic and then translate it into English, and then we've got a beautiful nasheed for you in English, which is based upon the topic as well. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير صدق الله العظيم. Translation: O mankind, we created you from one male and one female, then distributed it into nations, tribes that you may know. You may know one another. Indeed, the noblest amongst you in the sight of God is he who is most God-fearing. Undoubtedly, Allah, God Almighty, is all-knowing, fully aware. Explanation of this ayah, the verse of the Holy Quran. The respected scholar writes that the origin of every human being, according to most religions, is the Prophet Adam, peace be upon him, and Hawa, who is known as Eve in Christianity, peace be upon them both, who were created from dust. Therefore, the origin of all human beings is dust as well. On what grounds then do we claim superiority over one another? The creation and division of human beings in different races and tribes is for the purpose of recognizing and identifying each other, and not for the purpose of claiming superiority and arrogance over one another. So this is the purpose of mankind, and this is the reason why, obviously, whatever religion you follow, or if you follow no religion, you will understand that wherever we are born, if it was whether hot countries, the complexion is a bit darker. In the cooler countries, it's lighter. So science backs this up as well. So God Almighty's message to human beings, to mankind, is that you have been created from one man and one woman. And in the sight of your Lord, he is the noblest, or she is the noblest, and who does good works. And that is what spirituality can be based upon, that somebody is pious, somebody has done good work. And we recognize that. Human beings recognize this, that when somebody does good, we recognize that and we praise that person. So here we learn that basically the tribes system, or different cultures, or different races, is just for recognition purposes, not to claim superiority. So as we go along, we will have a respected scholar on board as well, who wants to give the message as well about unity, that we must unite and stand against racism, the evil, which is an evil which has been spread into mankind to divide and be cruel to each other, and we need to stop that. So today's program is in relation to the Windrush generation and descendants. We need to educate our community, whether it's the white community or whether it's the Asian community. We all need to learn that who are the Windrush generation? What did they do for us? What is the debt we owe to them? And how were they treated? And our guests will elaborate on that. And you will see that other groups, the minorities, have suffered as well. But our brethren from the Africa, descendants from Jamaica, Africa, and especially where Windrush generation are from, the descendants. This is their country, this is their home. But how were they treated? Rather than, did we treat them with gratitude? Are we treating them with gratitude? And recently you heard about the report which come out as well. And that report was a whitewash. Everyone knows that. And it hurt a lot of people. It didn't take a lot of people's... it should have been more sensitive. And it should have been more based upon the community who had suffered. They should have been the one leading this report. Not those who have... who are known, or organizations which are known to be institutionally or racist. So basically, if we want to work with group, we have to get them at the front line. If they have to be involved, and they have to tell us that what is the facts on the ground. And this is the Windrush generation and organizations such as Deep Dell Community organization and other organizations which are grassroots organizations, and they promote basically quality, and they are all stand together in unity against racism. And one of that organization is MEND, and they'll be here as well, and the teachers, what do they do and how they can help if we are the victims of such racism. So before our other guests come, what we're going to do is we prepared a short nasheed. Basically it's a message of peace, that if we all believed that our hearts can have love. It's based upon love and unity and about message of peace. Shoaib, can you play the nasheed? And then by that time, hopefully our other guests would join us. Thank you.
If you dare to believe, you will perceive the world differently. Just one heart, one voice, one hand, one smile, one world. From ripples to waves, from whispers to echoes, love sets us free.
Her eyes fade just like her yesterday. She looks at me and says, help me to find my way. See, I've lost everything. Help me to start again. And as I turn away from her, I can still hear her say, is there anyone out there who hears me cry? Anyone beyond the shadows? There's nothing I can give you but my prayer. Don't you see love sets us free? If you dare to believe, one heart can heal another, one hand can lift us higher. If you dare to believe, one voice brings hope. With one smile we save each other. If you dare. Since the world is gone to ashes dark and grey, if we all shine the light, it will light up our way. Then we see beyond the color, beyond nations and tribes. We're meant to learn about each other. Let love be the guide. If you dare to believe, one heart can heal another, one hand can lift us higher. If you dare to believe, one voice brings hope. With one smile we save each other. If you dare to believe, one heart can heal another, one hand can lift us higher. If you dare to believe, one voice brings hope. With one smile we save each other. If you dare. If you dare to believe, one heart can heal another, one hand can lift us higher. If you dare to believe, one voice brings hope. With one smile we save each other. If you dare.
Beautiful nasheed promoting peace and harmony. The nasheed artist is he's done some phenomenal work with Yusuf Islam as well, and other artists alike in Africa. He's from Africa, born and bred in Africa, Zain Beaker, and he's brought a lot of communities together, and is very renowned for his charitable works as well, and also bringing the message of peace to all humanity. And so now, after we've done the introduction, we're going to go straight to our first guest, Julia Davidson. I've introduced Julia, so without further ado, Julia, you're on. How are you? Hey, I think you're still on mute. Can you unmute, Julia?
Thank you very much. Good evening, Brother Hamid. And thank you for inviting me here this evening to have the opportunity.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
In particular, I quite enjoyed that message in the video. I think it captivates everything that we're trying to replicate here and other grassroots organisations. I am founder of Windrush Generation and Descendants UK in Peterborough, and I'm also affiliated with Preston Windrush Generation and Descendants UK. And it's about reinforcing the message about people coming together of all walks of life, all communities. Nobody should have to accept this abhorrent behaviour that we find ourselves.
Of course. So, Julia, if you can, for our audience, basically just briefly explain what is the Windrush generation and how did it come about? Just briefly, I know it's a very long topic, and many people know as soon as you speak about it, but there are youngsters who are watching this program and they don't know about it. What is the Windrush generation?
Okay, well, the Windrush generation, I'll give you the adapted version. People seem to feel that the Windrush generation came here in 1948. There were many people from different parts of the world who came over to the UK in the first instance, but definitely in 1948, the Windrush generation came here via the Empire boat, landed in Tilbury Docks, and they came here and they were invited, to be fair, to come and build up the British Empire after the Second World War. And it was a case of, at that time, the empire as we now know it was in a very sorry state of affairs, and people came from far and wide, including Africa, the Caribbean, India, Asia, all over the world, and on how they were treated at the time since then has just been terrible. So 72 years ago, to be fair, going into its 73rd year this year, we celebrate Windrush Day, and that is the 22nd of June, and that is in brief what took place. The contributions made by people coming from different colonies was to support the country, to put the country back on its feet after the First World War, going into the Second World War, and to enable the infrastructure to be what it is today. Without that support, help from all different walks of life, this country would not be where it is today. Let's be clear with that. They wouldn't have what they've got now if it wasn't for the likes of people leaving their homelands, their motherland, because they were invited to come to the mother country and help and assist. 50, 60, 70 years on, the Windrush generation scandal that has been born from this, the government and Priti Patel are saying that these people are now illegal immigrants. So the world is watching.
Yes. So is that still the case now? Because a lot of it, they admitted the faults. We got some more. Shoaib, our guests, more guests have joined us. I think Anthony's with us. But before we go to Anthony, so, is that the case still happening that, people are getting threatened? Because it was really big, a few years ago, and that's when the scandal broke. And basically, they acknowledged and they apologized, and they acknowledged that they lost the paperwork prior to the, what's it called, the Immigration Act in the 70s. And that was the reason, because they didn't have the data. So that's why they didn't know if the person was legally here before the Immigration Act or was it after. So, I mean, is that still happening?
Of course, it's still happening. And the proof in the pudding is that the landing cards or the landing passes that you're referring to in Theresa May's era, and long before Theresa May, to be perfectly fair, the government somehow with the Home Office lost important documents that would validate why people were here. And in turn, legislation brought about a law that didn't, today we've got everything in the digital format. We've got the phones, we've got media, we've got things that are current, that people could access information. In the early 70s, going into the 80s, that was not accessible right across the board. So a lot of people found themselves in a situation when they were either applying for a new passport or they were applying for an important document, and they found themselves being told that they were illegal immigrants when that wasn't the case. So part of the Home Office ruling is that people were being told to confirm their status, their citizenship, etc. And because certain documents, some people came here as children with their parents, that wasn't a procedure that needed additional information. They found themselves that they were being asked to produce documents. So because of legislation that moved from the 70s and again into the 80s, a lot of people found themselves in this dilemma. Right. Now, obviously, I can appreciate this program is only on till 8:30, but I'm here to tell you that there are thousands of people who are affected, not just only the Windrush generation, it's the Windrush generation and their descendants, whether they're here in the UK or they find themselves being kept in countries outside of the UK where they can't come back into the UK because of this ruling by the government. And that is what's abhorrent. We've now got a situation where the Home Office has acted out unlawfully. They are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and they've subjected a lot of people to a lot of terrible situations. They've found themselves being detained. They've found themselves being deported. They've found themselves being cut off from access of external agencies such as legal support, DWP, healthcare, the whole ramification around that. And what we've done as an organization with WD Legal, Anthony Brown, and with the likes of Preston Windrush and Black Lives Matter is highlighted these concerns because the Home Office has not addressed the situation properly. First of all, since December, Priti Patel came out and says that there is going to be an increase in levels of compensation. Well, the compensation has gone backwards and forwards, and people are now having to justify why they're eligible for this compensation. I would like to call it reimbursement. It's not compensation, it's reimbursement for damages caused and for impacting on life impact to that person or that applicant applying for either their citizenship, their stay, or nationalization.
Okay, right. So we've got Anthony here. Thank you very much, Anthony, for joining us. So we will come back to Julia. And as you have just heard, that obviously this Windrush generation didn't affect the immediate people. It's still ongoing. And Anthony is a barrister, Anthony, is that right?
No, that's not correct.
Solicitor. Yeah.
No, I'm a paralegal. So
paralegal. Okay. So Anthony is the chairperson. Sorry, I should have introduced you properly. Sorry, I'm not a very good host, not professional enough, but Anthony is the Windrush Generation's chairperson and paralegal as well, as he just explained. So Anthony, you've heard what Julia was saying. What would you say to add to that? What is the impact still ongoing, and is people still getting deported, and how the compensation, well, Julia said it should be not called compensation, it's more of a reimbursement. So what do you say to that?
I think before we can talk about that, it's important that people understand how the Windrush scandal came about and who the Windrush generation are. So first of all, the Windrush generation are British people. So they're British because for 300 years or more, they were taken from Africa and put in the Caribbean and enslaved and made into British people. They didn't start off as British people, but after 300 years of being ruled by Britain and speaking, the language of the colonial power and adopting their traditions and so on, you are British. So in 1948, Britain declared that all the people in the Caribbean and other parts of the world were citizens of the United Kingdom and colonies. So they passed a law in the House of Parliament that made people in the Caribbean British. And so in June 1948, a ship had gone back to the Caribbean to pick up people who had fought in the war. who had gone back to the Caribbean on leave, and there was some extra space on the ship, so the captain or the staff on the ship were a bit enterprising, so they put adverts in the local newspapers about cheap fares, and so about 1,000 or so people, mainly Jamaicans, but others came over, and that ship was called the Empire Windrush. So in June, in 22nd June 1948, it landed at Tilbury Docks, and that, they say, started the wave of migration from Britain, from the Caribbean to Britain. Now, on top of that, Britain was suffering labor shortages after the war, and so people like Enoch Powell was actually sent out to the Caribbean to canvass to get people to come to Britain to work. And so they came over to rebuild the country. So these people were British citizens by law, and they were here as British citizens. Now, the 1971 Act, or when Britain started to make their countries independent, they took away their citizenship. So they took away UK citizenship. So my dad, who was living here in, say, 1962, Jamaica became independent. And unbeknown to my dad, he'd come here to be a civil engineer. So he was literally rebuilding the country, and his citizenship was taken away. So so it's like, you know, you and I are here, and then one day I'm a British citizen still, but then you're not, because the government has passed a law to take away your citizenship, and you don't know anything about it, and your children don't know anything about it. And so what has happened is the government then passes the 1971 Immigration Act that makes someone who hasn't got these documents an immigrant. So from being a British citizen, he then becomes an immigrant, and then you know, roll on 50 years later, the government then passes another law and says all the people who want to have a job or want to access the NHS, they have to prove they're British. And they never gave those people who they took away their citizenship from any documents to say that they were British. So they just said they could stay here. And so that is what the Windrush scandal is. So it's a series of laws that have been passed that have taken away people's rights as citizens, and then told them that they can't access the NHS, they can't, you know, have their jobs. And so people started to lose their jobs, they started losing their houses, they started being put in detention and even deported. 160 odd, the Home Office says, were actually deported. Some died. And you know, those are the things that happened and are still happening because those laws are still on the statute books. They may be trying to compensate a few, but the vast majority of them are too scared to come forward. So that's what's going on.
Right. Thank you very much for that. So we'll come back to you. We've got our respected scholar, and I wanted him to give a message, a universal message to the Asian community and the wider community as well, because obviously everyone has seen some sort of racism. And what does, as our duty as ourselves, Maulana Sahib, is that obviously if you can, as a fellow human being, forget about religion for a minute, what is our duty should be towards the Windrush generation descendants or people who have suffered, you know, with racism. What is the message about in the religion of Islam as well, and how can we support each other to basically unite against racism? And Maulana Imam is also accountant, so he's a qualified young scholar as well, and is also an accountant as well, and he is currently leading at the Nurani Islamic Education Center on Gostan Road. So I'm going to pass it on to the respected Maulana Adil Sahib. Jazakallah khairan for joining us. So Zert, I know you have to rush to Salah, so if you can just give a universal message. And can you turn your phone low, please? I think it might echo. Can you hear us?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good evening to all that are present. I'm very honored and privileged to be part of this to do our bit for our community and the entire generation of people growing up to show a solid front on the topic of racism. I've been told to concentrate on Islamic of racism, but as mentioned by Brother Kamran, it is not Islam that speaks about racism. All religions are united on their stance against racism and how there should be a complete zero tolerance policy for who are racist. We see today with these people have of social media the power that in this scene, how everyone is getting on, and it seems to be that every day you are listening to people who have been subject to racist chants, racist behavior, racist comments, and it's very unfortunate that famous people, footballers that are not famous have to deal with this illness of racism. And call it an illness. It's illness of the heart that people have to resort being racist to try to determine whether or not they are actually superior to someone. And if it comes to you calling out someone their color, then no doubt you have lost the argument before it even begin. Being someone.
Sorry, sorry to interrupt. I think what it is, I think you've got your phone on the echo. Is that or can you just, because it's echoing? Could you have a look? Is it your phone yourself, Sheikh, you're using? Or is it on your laptop?
I'm on my phone.
Yeah, if you can, basically, I think to keep it close to yourself.
Okay.
Maybe that will help. Yeah. Sorry about this. Yeah, carry on with that.
So first to mention exactly what the Holy Quran is about race, and what the Holy Quran says about in general. It's been inside the Holy Quran that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has mentioned that He has created us as male, as females, and in different nations and in different. So here the message is very simple, that people being diverse having different in their appearance, people having differences, they are born. This is not. This is chosen by the Creator, chosen by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, that people will be different to one another. But the ones that are successful are the ones tolerant to those that are different to them. And what's so color does not make someone superior or inferior to anyone. Another verse in the Quran is that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has created us a manner where the only thing shall be judged upon is actions. They all know whether someone is more pious than someone else is based on their actions, based on their morals and how they behave with themselves in front of them, and based on how they behave with people in society. One of the Prophet ﷺ's greatest companions, Sayyidina Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Alhamdulillah. All praises for Allah, that whenever someone speaks about the companions of Allah, they all about Sayyidina Bilal. When people speak about who love the Prophet ﷺ, we speak about Sayyidina Bilal. And this is the biggest reasons that we as Muslims to show that racism is not tolerated in Islam. Racism is tolerated in action. Sayyidina Bilal was a proud black man who came from Ethiopia and became one of the closest companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually him the designated giver of the prayer. He could have chosen Yet the Prophet ﷺ chose Sayyiduna Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu to show in history, to show it will come in the future that Islam does not judge you based on your color. And no any religion base you on judging your color. Religion will base your piety, your religion base you on how you are with people. And this is the most important that we have. When
sorry to interrupt, but obviously the message is quite clear from the Islamic context. But however, with the Windrush generation, as yourselves, you probably will be aware of that there is not enough education and awareness in the Asian, even Muslim community, especially in Preston, obviously, because we're a lot of the community subcontinent people are our ancestors, our great grandparents are from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh, primarily in in Preston. So as uniting with the Windrush generation, basically, what can we do, or what should we do?
One of the, I think, most important things we need to do is raise awareness in every masjid, in every area, every community. Make it so public every person is aware of the problems that in society in this matter. Everyone has to social these days. So we should put it on a platform where everyone is aware of it. Person who goes on any form of social media, they should be aware of exactly the issues that we are facing in day and age, how we can tackle it. I believe it's a individual responsibility. Every person help fight this cause. If everyone thinks that person will do it, I have not been out in society, I don't have much power, my voice don't get heard as much. It's fine. But everyone do their bit. Everyone has a individual responsibility to try to better the community they live in. Rid the community of these illnesses. And if we our own street, we look after our own home, and everyone's responsibility, then we can be hopeful that these sort of issues, these sort of illnesses no longer prevail in our community.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan. I know that you're going to go and lead Salah, so thank you very much for your message. I know we had some issues there with some echo, but I think primarily we had basically the message of Islam, as at the earliest I recited the Holy Quran as well. The God Almighty saying that I've created you in nations, in different races or in nations, so though you recognize each other, surely in the light of the God Almighty, He is superior, who is pious or does good actions. And basically that we all recognize. Somebody who does good work, we will reward them with the Nobel Peace Prize or whatever. And that superiority is not arrogance, because somebody does good, obviously, if he's arrogant or she's arrogant, then that's all wasted. So we thank the respected Imam. He had to go. I'm going to pass it on back to Anthony. I just saw Julia putting her hand up. So Julia, if you want to come in, that's fine. Sean, can you bring Julia on the main light, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, Brother Hamid. I'm going back with the gentleman's just said previously. I think he was asking the question, what do we need to do? Yes, we do need to have a coming together of people standing together in harmony, in solidarity, to say the disparities does not sit with one community. It has an impact on everybody. It's unfortunately that the focus is sat firmly with the African Caribbean origin, but the scandal and the Windrush treatment that has been rolled out is affecting everybody, because obviously there are relationships that have gone on to be mixed relationships. We are a community here in Peterborough. They like to say that they are the environment capital of being multicultural, diverse community. Well, I would say poppycock to that. There is truth in part, but not in all. The disparities cannot be reflected in certain groups of people, whether it be in the Asian community, the Caribbean community, etc., etc. We need to come together, and we need to be addressing the leaders. We need to have a stronger voice to be able to stand concurrently and say enough is enough. If you want a united front, the politicians look to us for us to support them electoral times, to vote for them. Well, in order for me to vote for anybody, they need to be taken on the concerns of the community. And the community are suffering. Doesn't matter if you're Asian, if you're Indian, if you're Black, if you're African, if you're white. Everybody, we all pay our taxes. We're all supposed to be one race. One race. And nobody should be falling into this situation that has been allowed to be gone unnoticed until a group of people are coming out and saying these disparities that are happening to them, they're suffering, they're losing their jobs, they're having their livelihoods taken away from them, and they have got nowhere or who to go to, and who will listen, who is prepared to stand up and be a voice for people. Now, we can't do it on our own, but by coming together, what we have found out, you know, through grassroots organizations, we are not the only one who's being impacted.
Of course, definitely. That is the truth. And obviously, I myself have had many occasions where I'm a wheelchair user, and we're going to get Anthony back up because putting his hand up, and then we're going to get Dr. Ziauddin, who came into this country himself as a migrant and basically came in here, and you know he's a doctor serving the community, and that's what happened. Because I looked into the Windrush generation and you know, the scandal and how it came about and things like that, and how they were invited, and the contribution to the NHS, especially the nurses, which is amazing. What the nurses and the doctors who came from the on the Windrush ship. Basically the contribution they did, and some of the work which others were willing to take, the people who came and worked hard and rebuilt this country. And of course it's our home, and we're proud to be British, but obviously what is happening, it shouldn't be happening after such a long time, you know. So Anthony, you're back on. What would you like to say to that? I mean, sorry, go on.
You asked the question, what can be done to support?
Yeah.
So what we would like is for letters to be written to your MP. We've got template letters that people could write. We also have a motion that you could discuss and vote on in your organizations, whether it be a trade union or a community group. But this is how we would like people to help, to actually take action. And the action that we're asking for is, you know, as the Imam was saying, to raise awareness, but raise awareness in a particular way. Raise awareness by writing letters to your politicians. Raise awareness by discussing it and passing motions within your trade unions, within your community groups, within whatever organization, and we can share that motion with you. That's the kind of support that will help us. Then we would also need to understand what kind of support you will need for your issues, because, you know, if we're asking for support, then it makes it's right that we offer to support you on your issues as well. So this is where we build understanding between each other. We're not just here to sort of, get, help.
Just support us. It's
not return it. It's got to be a two-way street. That's how we strengthen each other. So we'd like to hear, what are some of the issues that you have that we could support you on as well?
Yeah, I mean, the great. I'm going to bring in Dr. Ziauddin here, and then. Because he's been waiting patiently. So let's introduce Dr. Ziauddin. You've been listening to the light and what's been happening with the Windrush generation as you came into this country, and you're an NHS staff member, a doctor serving the local community of Blackpool and in the Northwest. What would you like to add to this?
Thanks very much for inviting me in this very privileged group of people sitting next to Julia and Anthony, who have been obviously working hard to get their voice heard and get their sentiments shared by the community. And I fully share their sentiments, and I fully agree with them because we have been in a different area, but still we feel the same thing. And I would say something which is before I start with my main thing, that one of the white person has said something about racism, and he said within quotes, as a white person, I had been taught about racism that puts other at a disadvantage, but had been taught not to see one of his scholarly aspects, white privilege, which puts me at an advantage. White privilege is an invisible package of unearned assets, which I can count on cashing in every day, but about which I was meant to remain oblivious. Which means that being white, they have got a special privilege to enjoy in this country. I give you the example, some facts that first 100 people who die in the COVID-19 situation, 60 people were from black ethnic background, although there are only 20% of these people are working in the NHS. So in other words, the people who die in the NHS at that time, the first line workers were about 60% because of lack of equipment available to them. The work environment was not so conducive to them. They were not upfront to ask for their demands or privileges which they can have it. So that is a big sort of a setback. And then they have done a study in BART NHS Trust in London, and they found that it includes about 1,000 and about 1,800 patients. And they found in that group, there was about 30 to 49% of the people which die within 30 days of COVID-19, which is a quite big percentage of people. And secondly, that is about up to 80% of the people went into the ICU from our ethnic background. So the main thing is that because of our poverty, environmental factors, our poor sort of orientation towards the health environment, then another thing is that we are not well sort of educated about our needs into the community. When we get ill, we don't approach our GP so quickly and so efficiently as we should be. And one example, which is I think is very common, that we obviously Asian and ethnic minority people, they are not very convinced to have immunization done. Although it is very important at this stage that we should look after our health. Whatever else we will do, we have to look ourselves first. And there's a lot of myths and a lot of myths about that. That once you get immunization, your DNA will be changed, which is myth, and you become infertile. Your vaccination can give you the infection, and you keep on going on and on and on.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Dr. Sab. You know, obviously, when you came into this country, and because I know we're going to give them at the end, we give a vaccine and a COVID advice as well to the wider community. However, you know, when you came into this country or in the NHS, because this report, which was the report from the government, said basically that there is no institutional racism in Britain anymore. So it's not like, you're in the NHS. So what do you feel as in the NHS as one part? Forget the police for a minute or other organizations. How do you feel about that?
I think it is quite present in the NHS, because even if you look at the British Medical Journal, they have published a separate edition on that, and that is a BMJ racism in medicine. This is a separate, any sort of a full sort of a journal issued on that topic, and it is. And I give you the example, which is very recent one, and I can see almost every day, that in the night shift, when you are coming out of the hospital at about slightly late, about 8, 9 o'clock, all the nurses who are going to work in the night, I would say 95% are Afro-Caribbean nurses. So I don't know why those people are working in the night and why the white people are working in the day, which is the more social hours. And this is, I think, very common. If you go to the places anywhere, I know about Blackpool, when you go out and you visit anytime in the evening, like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, when the shift changes, you will see a lot of Afro-Caribbean nurses who are on the waiting to be signed in, because they work as a shift worker. They are not NHS employed. That's why they have to wait to be signed in properly. So this is one of the examples of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have to be basically second choice. It's basically first the shifts are given majority. So there is, it's rigged. It is rigged. Like they said, there's no official, although they acknowledge there is racism, but they're saying that Britain has now become free from institutional racism. So obviously that's from your NHS perspective. About yourself, how long have you been in this country now?
About 26 years. I came in 1995.
So how do you feel from 95 to now? What do you feel that, our Black communities, our Asian communities, do you think racism is worsened or is it gone better? In your field, obviously you can talk about your field only.
Yeah, what I would say is that, because what I would say is that if the credit goes to the people who have raised their voices against racism, and now it is very well accepted that somebody who's doing something which is clearly racial discrimination or racial remarks, then he will be subject to some sort of a disciplinary action. So I would say that it was worse previously, because the law was not there and the people were openly trying to abuse the non-white people. But because now the law is there and they are not as openly abuse the non-white people, and they are very because they can easily be tackled, or they can be approached by the seniors that why it has been done. And it is a part of our mandatory training that all these things should be looked at as a racial abuse.
Thank you very much, Sab. Now finally, I know you've got to go. You work at all hours. I know the work you do. But before you go, I know we still want to hear some COVID, especially for Ramadan, for the people to keep the social distancing and all that. The message is still the same, but we still need to deliver that message. But I think Julia wants to ask a question. Yes, Julia?
Yeah.
Dr. Khan, before you go, obviously, in my situation, I care for my father, who is 98 if he lives to see May this year. And he has a condition called Lewy bodies. Now, the reason why I'm interjecting here is because you mentioned about how some people from the ethnic community are concerned about having the vaccination. Well, my question would be this: because of the condition that my father's got, why isn't an assessment being done to see if a person is fit to have that procedure, knowing that there is blood clotting associated and affected brain damage from the vaccine for people of a certain age? My father meets that criteria. He comes under that category. And I was in a conversation with a GP only last week, who they have now accepted that my father, for the time being, will not be asked to come forward to have the vaccination. And I'm of that opinion too. There isn't sufficient data. I feel this government has rolled out something without having the accurate data about. And let's get this straight. It's still being trialed. There is no accurate data out there as yet to concurrently say that this vaccine is safe. If the vaccine is only going to be used as a preventative measure, the government didn't have sufficient of the inoculation to roll out for all of the population. They first advised that it would be being inoculated in 21 days, and then they rolled it out to 28 days. Now it went to 12 weeks. The fact remains they wanted to get enough people, enough of the population vaccinated. And I know the government was going out online saying that the majority of people in my father's age group has had, if not one of the vaccine, they're onto their second vaccine. That is a blatant lie. I'm here to say the government had no right putting out false information to mislead people inappropriately, and the same way that they have done with the Windrush scandal. You talked about the jobs, and I'm glad that you've done that, because in the frontline services of all employment, you will find the majority is and people in those positions are employed by black, or taken up by black people, whether you be Asian,
yeah,
Indian, whether you be African, whether you be Jamaican. And the first thing that we've found because of this pandemic, which I'm really excited about, to be fair, is just how far down the totem pole we are in recognition for support in housing, education, in welfare, and in health. And now, because of these disparities, the medical field has had to come and admit that they haven't got sufficient data to reflect those categories effectively. That's because we were not given a consideration. Now, considering that we only make up 3% of the population, why is that?
Yeah, so Dr. Sab, if I could obviously elaborate there as well, that obviously it's not about a vaccine debate here anyway, but however, Julia asked a question and it should be addressed. But what I want to know is the vaccine for first, that is it optional to get the vaccine? That's one thing I think you need to elaborate. Is it optional? And of course, obviously, Julia said that, people are not getting the second job, but I just got it yesterday, my second job. So I'm 46. I'm in a wheelchair. I did get it, right? So I'm not saying about, I don't know much data what Julia's research is about, but obviously, Dr. Sab, what would you, here? What we were taught is this: you're not here to make people go for the vaccine, but provide adequate information so they can make an informative decision. So what would you say that to this question of Julia's, that look, why was it pushed on this quickly?
Yeah, before the doctor answers, I've just got one other thing to pick him up on. He said that there were myths going around, but a lot of people are not getting their information from myths. They're getting it from the mainstream media. Like, for example, why aren't doctors in the NHS in Leicester in significant proportion taking the vaccine? Up to 60% of them are refusing to take the vaccine in Leicester. So why is it just the social media that is said to be creating vaccine hesitancy? Doesn't stories like that create vaccine hesitancy? If doctors on the front line who see all the COVID deaths are not taking the vaccine?
Doctor, I think with that one, before you answer that, have you taken the vaccine? And your colleagues as well?
Yeah.
And just elaborate.
Yeah,
please.
because the thing is that regarding vaccination, I think it is only started in 2019. So it's about 1 year and 4 months, like, since this all thing started from China. So it will, whatever the data up till now available, that this vaccine is safe. It has got some side effects, but doesn't mean that side effects will be with any of the vaccination thing. It is voluntary. Voluntarily, you can take it. If you don't want to take it, you don't take it. I've received both of my vaccination jabs now, and I think in a hospital, I don't know anybody in our. I'm not talking about the entire hospital, but in our department who have refused not to get the vaccination done. Even people are getting it done more quicker by voluntarily going into their department to work for something so that they can get the vaccination done quickly. So the main thing is that there will always myths that, as I mentioned early on, and I just quickly mentioning about Julia queries and questions, because the thing is that no, when you think of going back many decades back, polio was very prominent in the community. Smallpox, the people in there who are almost like 50 years back, they suffer from smallpox, polio. These are the two common illnesses which makes the person very sort of a disabled and make it very disfigured. And vaccinations have helped them to come over that thing. So I think up till now, whatever the data is coming out from America, like Center of Disease Control from UK, from China, that it is not causing anything significant, like where we can be alarmed with it, that this is something going wrong. Any individual cases are there, but immunocompromised people should get it because they will get extra benefit out of it. Um, Although the infection of the disease will cause more harm than the vaccination itself. So it is again, as I mentioned by Brother Kamran, that we are not debating here about the vaccination and not to vaccination. It is entirely voluntary, and I got it done. My wife is getting it done. Obviously, these are the two age groups we are getting it done in the family. Whenever it is offered to my other children and my other family member, they all will get it done. I would say that whatever the said about vaccine against vaccine is not so important than what is in favor of vaccination, because if you have got any the chances of having problem with COVID is 10 times more than flu. So in other words, somebody gets COVID infection, like my wife, she's otherwise very healthy, she went into the ICU, stay there for a couple of nights there. So what I'm saying is that a very healthy people, very active people can end up in the ICU within a span of few days. So if you have got a privilege or chance to get a vaccination done, I think it's good to get it done. There's here and there few exceptions will be there, but don't deny it that it is not a good thing. Obviously, research will come in the next. It will keep on coming up year by year. But as we know previously, that smallpox and polio are the two examples which has been eradicated from the world now, and the people are very happily living without it.
So I think, Dr. Saab, I think we're going to leave the vaccine because our debate is not a debate; it's more of creating awareness of basically, that we need to unite together, because I feel that people are fighting their own corners, the Pakistani community. And like I said, I've been abused 4 times, right? And I've been treated really badly from the police. I'll give you one example. I was on my wheelchair. I got beaten up by this gentleman. Basically, we used to come down the street. They used to pull women's scarves off, chase kids. And everyone said, oh, he's got mental health, right? So it came to a point that he became very dangerous, and he attacked me. And when I called the police, I followed them, right? And I followed them all the way. I said, I'm not going to go away until you come for this guy. We've had enough. Kids are scared when he comes, when he's had a few drinks, and this is what he does. Go to your country and all sorts, right? So basically, when the police came, they're just chatting with this Mr. I know his name as well, and they started having a bit of a laugh and joke with him. And I said, look, this guy's just, and the police officer shouted at me. He said, you stay over there, don't provoke him, right? You not provoke him. And I thought, you have not even heard no, you stay there, right? Shouting at me. So I took them, their collar number and everything, and I came home and I spoke to the police independent complaints. I did that, and I went take it to the top. That time it was Tracy O'Gara as the inspector, chief inspector, right? And basically, she came, and then they acknowledged, and then all these service providers, social services, mental health, all came together, and they found out that he was abusing his wife as well, right? So it wasn't just a racist, he was a domestic violence case as well. So all this time he's been abusing his elderly wife. It's 60 years plus, and and they say, oh, he's just got mental health. He was walking fine every time, but when he's had a few drinks, that's when all the racism used to come out. So we didn't let it rest, and eventually all these services came together, and he was sectioned, and whatever happened after that, there was apologies made, and then they said, we're going to train these officers about with the you know, about racial discrimination and things like that, and it'll be gone on their file if anything like this happens, and this and that, and anything. It was made all look nice, and I kind of think brush it under the carpet thing was happened, and you know, sorry, apologize, and gone home, right? And this is not just what this summer we had 12, 14 girls terrorizing girls and few boys. Summer after just the first lockdown, summer. They were terrorizing the whole area, kicking doors, chucking alcohol in houses, right? And, you know, and I came, as I said to the same thing to the police, 3 days we are calling you for these youth are coming into this area, chanting Taliban and kicking doors. This little child, the chairperson of the Community Association niece, were playing as a toddler, and a can went flying in of alcohol full. That could have split the child's head open. And you know what? He sat in my house, the police officer, and he said, "Oh, you know what it is, Mr. Ahmed? They're just children and they're bored." I said, "You call that boring, right?" And then we had a community organization. We called the councillors. We had a meeting. We had to call the police, and we said, you know, at the community hall, and we said to them, right, if a youth of Asian, Muslims, or black people, black youngsters, Asians did that, and if they were Muslims, then you will go to Prevent. You all know about Prevent, right? So you will go to the Prevent and basically you know, try to look at how should we educate this youngster. He could be a potential terrorist. Then it's not boring. The ones while he was taking my statement, the youngsters came again. And he said, what can I do is I can either get them picked up and take them to the house, or I'll tell them to move on. He went out, they laughed in his face, and they were just making fun, right? So when that happened, I said, why are you not getting the one? He said, I can't take them. They'll move on. And then he didn't call nobody. And then eventually when we called the complaint commission, you know, went to the higher up, sergeant, desk sergeant, and things like that. And then they come into they said, we went and spoke to these youngsters' parents. And because we said we don't want them to be punished, we want them to educate that how serious this thing is. But if you're going to say that it's boring, they're bored and they're doing this, then, you know, why are you, when our youngsters are standing on streets and searching them and things like that, then, you know, they're not doing anything. So sorry, yeah, I've got on my own case there. Sorry about that. Yeah, Julia, let's get Julia back on the stage.
Thank you. I just want to pick up something that you said there. I mean, look at the situation that we find ourselves in, and it is unprecedented what is going on.
Of course.
And the population is walking around with masks, and a lot of people have objected to wearing these facial masks. Can I just say, that is a feeling that you've had only a few months of. If we go into the shops, we're interrogated, we're watched. Why are we doing this? We can't even go in certain shops because they feel that we haven't either A, based on how we look, that we've got the money in which to spend in that facility. They subject us to, if we're out on the streets with our friends or peers, that we're up to something, that we're doing something. We've been called out for all kinds of reasons. And this institutional racism that has been allowed to not be challenged is something that I find alarming. The majority of Black women are held in mental health institutions. If you look at the statistics at that, and I'm sure the Dr. Khan will confirm that, you will also find Black men are being incarcerated, and there is this perception to say that it's Black men who are predominantly dealing with antisocial behavior when there is no truth in that. However, every time there is something that is being raised or the local authorities want funding for, it's us they use as a source to in which extract, retract, and implement. But when it comes down to those funds being spent in our communities to either A, put provision in for youth clubs, not there. Yeah. Is there any wonder why we've got young people hanging about on the streets? Because there is nowhere to go. If they're not associated with either a mosque or another purpose-built building in order for them to go to, the attention is, where else can they go? Yes. So even if they are out on the streets, they are stopped, they're arrested, they're charged, they're searched, and nobody is challenging this situation. We have had, in just as many few weeks, however many black children have gone missing, and it's not even hit frontline media. We're having to do that within our own circles, on our own forums, to raise awareness, to say, have you seen this person? This person's gone missing. My condolences to the family of Richard, who was found in Epping Forest, who was presume drowned. How did he drown in water? He was found in a pond. You know, I have to ask the question, where is the CCTV? We are watched 24/7. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. So why was that death not prevented? Why did Sarah Everard die? And I'm going to call them out, because there is plenty of equipment that is out there which is supposed to be capturing our movements. And if we're out late at night, you know, doing something that they feel that we shouldn't be doing, whether we're coming or going home from work, because there's no public transport for those people who don't drive. So they're having to rely on Shanks's pony, you and I, their feet, or riding a bike. The provisions are not there to get people from A to B, covering shift patterns that are outside stupid hours. They're not even proper hours. This government is taking more provisions away from us. You can't say it's not institutional, because it is. Now they're saying...
I think doctors, with the Dr. Ziauddin, obviously he works in the NHS sector, and he's clearly has highlighted, of course, it is institutional in the NHS, where obviously the most dedication has been given from the Black and Asian minority communities, right? And they have supported it. And like Dr. highlighted, that they come out, you know, any time to, you know, save lives. They were at the front line. And obviously when we look at the police, you know, and if we speak to the police sector, who are, you know, the minority may be working there, those who will stand up, they will say that there is institutional racism. How can that not be? I mean, it was heartbreaking yesterday. I was in tears when I heard Richard's mom saying that how they were treated, you know, at the police station. And she's a nurse. She's there saving lives. And when it comes to her child, you know, then, you know, it's, oh, you know, he'll get back home if he's lost. To be, the comment she said was something like, they said, if he's lost, then if you can't find him, how can we find him?
Which goes against everything that should be what the police should be saying rightly. They said something that was abhorrent. They were incorrect. They were uncaring, unprofessional, and they certainly did not take into consideration just how serious this situation was. Now we've got
with the two young girls as well, wasn't it? Two young girls who were found murdered.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we're saying, if we are not protected, or to even be seen to be protected, who can we turn to? Sure. If we can't turn to each other for support of each other, to raise awareness into all these disparities, we have got no hope. No hope whatsoever. And Tony Sewell's report is absolutely a disgrace. It's an offence. It's shameful. And did he not think to speak to Dame Lawrence? When Stephen Lawrence was murdered, did they not think to take that into consideration too?
No, it's been a farce. So, Anthony, upon this report, I would like you to come on to this report. Basically, what is the key things which you think, you know, like passionately Julia has highlighted? I applaud to Julia for her passion and you know, her commitment to change things. I mean, so Anthony, we got Anthony. I think Anthony might have been disconnected. Shoaib, can you have a look if Anthony's still with us? I was going to bring Anthony onto this report thing. Obviously, it's a shambles. It's basically on a recent meeting where the Windrush generation and other community like-minded members were on there, and I was there, and I learned a lot that night. Thank you, Julia. You highlighted a lot of things in that meeting, and I think we've got Anthony back. Yeah, Anthony, hi, you're back. So I got a bit worried we disconnected you. Anthony, so you know, obviously, Julia's highlighted this very passionately, and it needs to be passionately. It needs to have commitment. and it needs to make things need to change. But what, as yourself, do you feel this report has done? What damage has it done, and how is it incorrect? What things are what you think are totally incorrect here, so we can teach our youngsters that you need to look into this. And if you can touch on the kill the bill thing as well, that was obviously, again, it's going to cause a lot of problems in the future for all communities who want to stand up for their rights.
Yeah, just to let everyone know, I've put some information in the chat about the motion, the President motion about tackling disparities through a Windrush Act, and if we can get some support for that, that'd be good. The Windrush Act that is in the motion that we have been campaigning for calls for a public duty to be put on bodies, public organizations, to tackle race disparities. So, the government produces statistics about the differences to how people have been discriminated against in public services, in education, in health, and so on. And for years, nobody did anything about it. So we put in this motion. We also did a judicial review against the Home Office, and we asked them to bring forward legislation to tackle disparities. Now, since then, this report has come out saying that the government, they've set up a commission for race disparities and produced this report. Tony Sewell has led this report, but people need to understand how to read the report and who the report is about. Now, a lot of people who are campaigning and making comments about the report are Black people. The report is not for Black people, and yet they are, making a fuss about the report. The report is a BAME report. It's for Black, Asian, and minority ethnic. So it's across the board. So when you don't see things in it that you expect to see, like Windrush, it's because it's a report that is across the board. If you look at the makeup of the commission, it's a diverse makeup. It's not just one person, the chairman, Tony Sewell. Yeah, everyone is diving in on Tony Sewell and saying, you said this 100 years ago, and you said that, 50 years ago. Yeah. And they failed to look at the people who have been contributing, who are his fellow commissioners. Men, some of them are Asian, some of them are women. So, it's diverse. So they are going to have an input. So the report is, first of all, reflecting different experiences. Yeah. Not everyone has experienced what Black people has experienced. So the report is coming at things from a watered down point of view, first of all, where Black people's concerned. Now, what's the report for? It's to say to institutions, look, these are the statistics, this is the data, and these are our conclusions. If people take the report and say, okay, it says here that Asian people aren't getting the sort of services that they should get from the NHS, what are you going to do about it? That is something how you can use the report. But nobody sat down and read the report like that and decided, okay, let's see how we can use this to tackle, some of the issues that it's referring to, which is what our Windrush Act would have done. So what I'm saying is that we have a government for 5 years or 4 years, depending. And if we want to do something about race disparities, we're going to have to engage with the government, or we're going to have to wait 4 years and let all the mayhem carry on that the report describes. Wow. So for me, people should just pipe down, look at the data, and start to say to the government, what are you going to do about only 5% of Black boys achieving 3 A levels when they've done 11 years of education. We've paid, as a public, taxes for people to be educated, and after 11 years, only 5% of them are getting 3 A levels. What kind of madness is that? And we don't say anything about it. We don't. If you went somewhere and paid money and you only got 5% of what you paid for, what would you do?
You wouldn't be happy, no.
You wouldn't be happy. Yet we sit here and take that nonsense and then talk about words that have been said 50 years ago.
Yeah. So I think the main message is
people who are saying stuff about, you know, the words of Torah, they should be publicly flogged.
I mean, you know, one of the representatives of Windrush Preston had a conversation with me yesterday, and she said, of course, it's good to have these kind of events, YouTube events and things like that, making awareness. However, we need to get on to the, like I said that day, men should be on the, you know, unfortunately, Amira is running late, but the MEND itself is basically an organization which fights Islamophobia and racism, regardless of your race or in faith, right? Of course, the Islamophobia is massive, right? So, you know, because you discriminated because of religion, right? However, the race issue is all across the board, right? So we can unite on common ground. That's what you're saying. We need to come together, and that's what yesterday the respected you know, said to me that, look, you know, Cameron, rather than just doing these events, let's do some internal meetings. Let's get the Imam, like Imam Qari Asim, who advises the government. People like this, they're the big, you know, who advises the government in terms of getting rights for the Muslims, right? Or for the in terms of if there are any issues with Islamophobia and stuff like that. So there's people like that. There's people like, you know, the MEND organization. There's the mosques. They need to come together, and people from the NHS like Dr. Ziauddin. And if we can come together and go to the police together and say, look, you know, why are these children getting missing from the black community, right? And why is their number so high? And how do you deal with it? I mean, like they said, Princess, you know, Kate, you know, Kate Middleton went to that, yes, was it Sarah, the young woman who passed away? Of course, we're appalled. We support that family and condolences to that family. However, why did that not happen when Richard was found? Why did that not happen when the 2 girls were found murdered? So, you know, and it's the same. The Asians are seeing that as well. You know, like I just explained to you, 2, 3, that's just me. You know,
it's very tragic. It's very tragic when these
we need to action points are probably taking.
But the thing is
sorry, go on.
The thing is very tragic when these incidents happen. But the thing is, what the report is talking about is what's going on day in, day out. So people's lives have been ruined day in, day out. People are going to prison disproportionately, day in, day out. People are dying in police custody, you know, disproportionately. People are being put into mental health institution disproportionately. So what I'm saying is those incidents are terrible, but if we don't create a framework that we're going to tackle these statistics, like, for example, you talked about going to the police. Why not have what they call an independent advisory group where the police have to come periodically and explain to you the data?
Well, there is actually,
in terms of police use of force, and all the other things that the police do. And then each quarter, you can say to the police, well, why are these statistics so high? What are you going to do to change things so that we can reduce it? If you're not doing that on a regular basis, then you're just allowing these things are
going to get worse.
The discrimination.
And the thing is, Anthony, I mean, I don't
you mentioned about Islamophobia. What are you doing to tackle Islamophobia? So that we know, so that we can stand by you when you're tackling it. It's no good just saying that, okay, Islamophobia is terrible and it shouldn't be done. Where is the data? What is happening? Are people being discriminated from jobs? How can we get the law involved? That's that's the kind of thing we need to be talking about.
No, thank you very much for that. I've got Amira. I know she's come late and she's from Mend, and I would like to bring Amira on. Shoaib, can you add Amira to the... right, there you are. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, I'm sorry for being late.
It's okay. I know you've been to another meeting, and Amira has been doing phenomenal work in terms of tackling Islamophobia and racism. So, Amira, I'm going to pass it on to you. You're the regional manager for MEND. Can you quickly explain MEND and how we can reach out to the Windrush generation, including the Community Association, and let's take some actions, not just words. We need actions. And actions means that we come together and plan that where is the Islamophobia thinking, where is the racism going toward the Windrush, what is happening, and how we can change that. And there is a police body, which IAOG, they call it, Independent Police Advisory Organization, where Roger Baines, he's a neighborhood watch person, a civil servant, Sajid Bashir sits on it, and we bring them as well, because they are the ones who then challenge them when something like this happens. And the Windrush generation should access to them and hold them accountable. That what are you guys doing? You're sitting there, right? So passing it on to Amira. Thank you very much for joining us, Amira.
No worries. So as Kamran helpfully said, I'm Amira. I work for MEND, which stands for Muslim Engagement and Development, and we are an organisation who specifically aims to tackle Islamophobia. And we do it in a few ways. And one of the ways we do it is by empowering and educating the Muslim community on Islamophobia and what you can do specifically in the spheres of media and politics to engage positively in these spheres so that we can make change, because those are the two spheres that we've identified as being the biggest factors when it comes to the portrayal of Muslims, the perception of Muslims, and how Muslims are perceived in society and therefore treated. So I think, Kamran, you spoke a bit about engaging locally. So I'm from Preston myself. I manage kind of the whole Northwest region, but I'm from Preston myself, and the Preston Working Group, which is a group of volunteers, that we've been doing some great work in engaging locally with local stakeholders, and that's really key when it comes to tackling any sort of discrimination or racism, making sure that we're speaking to the people who can make the change. So that's local politicians, making sure that they have an understanding of Islamophobia, that they have a strategy in place, that, the places where they have power, be it, schools, local services, that they are have some sort of strategy where they are addressing Islamophobia or anti-racism, that the practices that are in place and the policies that are in place are, anti-racist in nature or anti-Islamophobic in nature as well. And with the police as well. And this is, I think, Kamran, you mentioned this as well, about how we can work together with other community groups. For example, the Windrush generation. Is that what your guys' name is? Preston Windrush generation?
The Windrush generation. I mean, which I was speaking to you the other day about as well, on email. I mean, the main concern here is Islamophobia, and then obviously racism as well. And that's just one community. Obviously, other communities are facing due to the Sikhs are facing due to their religion or their color. Right. So obviously, in terms of, this report, I know MEND took quite a big lead, and in our community tried to make quite a bit of awareness about this report, which Anthony highlighted that, look, this report is not aimed just at Black people who have risen and wrote, the screaming from the top of the voice, so that this is wrong. It's going to affect us all. So as a Muslim person, and from MEND, what do you feel about that report, and what have you done about it?
So for us, the report is something that just it kind of takes the conversation back. So what we are doing as a group and as an organization, lots of other organizations, our focus is on tackling these problems. And what the report has kind of done is taken us back to arguing whether the problem exists in the first place. And it really kind of delegitimizes all the lived experiences of minority communities, Black and minoritized communities in the UK. So I think that the the race report has just taken us back to where we're arguing about whether this thing exists. When we are putting in so much work, and I'm sure the Oppressive Windrush Generation is doing the same thing, and other organisations like that, where we are tackling a problem that we know exists, and the race report is instead arguing whether or not it exists in the first place.
Yeah. So I mean, Julia, would you like to ask any questions to Amira or Anthony? How we can work together, or what do you feel?
Yes,
Julia?
Yes, Amira. Good evening, and thank you for being with us this evening. I'm Julia Davidson from Windrush Generation Descendants UK in Peterborough. I'm the founder there, and it would be great. There's plenty of information in the chat that Anthony and myself has entered in there for you to get access to. However, I'm fed up. I've got to really appeal to you as a woman to another woman, and that is, I am absolutely tired now of being embroiled into a situation where people who are in the position to change and to adapt and to acknowledge that racism does exist, whether it be institutional, whether it be racism, whether it be bias consciousness, it is there. And the reason why it's there is because we're all talking about it now. Yes. And the reason why we're talking about it now is because of what we find ourselves in. People for the longest time in their comfortable positions with their skin being safeguarded by the armor of their complexion in comparison to ours is not addressing the fundamental issues. Yes. We're looking at community cohesion, we're looking at health, we're looking at education, we're looking at employment, we're looking at housings. While you're doing that, in terms of MEND, I would welcome your support to get involved with grassroots organisations such as ours and Preston Windrush, and please adopt the Burning Work framework. That will tell you exactly what is required, what is needed, and it is a framework that has been tried and tested, and there is no reason for divisions, for anybody to sit at another conference wasting more valuable time to determine whether or not racism exists. Of course it exists, because why are we not getting the jobs where we should be getting? Why are we having to undertake two roles in employment to meet the same level of pay that one person who is white is getting? Why are we not being offered those positions, even though we've got the accreditations, we've got the qualifications? If your name alone, and you go and apply for a job somewhere in another local authority, just because they cannot say your name correctly, you will not be considered for going forward in that process of employment. These are the disparities. That is what institutional racism is all about. Yes. Or if you are fortunate to get through and you do get offered an interview, based on what they see, again, they're not looking at what you've accrued over the years through learning, higher education, secondary education, going on to university. Yes. It's as if you have to fit that role. Now, I'm not prepared to sit here anymore and hear any more of this rhetoric, because I'm an ex-civil servant and I was the only Black woman elected into my council to support my community. And I know everybody looked at me like as if I was a Trojan horse. Yes, I had 3 heads. It's it's disrespectful. It's not healthy. It's toxic, and it needs to be ousted out. There's no point in people saying they're not seeing it, they don't recognize it, they don't understand it because it doesn't impact on them. Okay, that may be fine. And that is possibly true for those people who can say that. But for the majority of us out here who are having to face that on a daily basis, yes, institutional racism exists. Bias consciousness exists. I've been in roles previously where I've had to prove myself beyond a shadow of a doubt that I was the right candidate. So they kept me in a position as either acting or deputy for the longest time before they gave me the role that I would rightly deserved in the first instance. That is the disparity. And then we as Black people are having to take in jobs that does not reflect our qualifications because we've got a family to support. That's real. That's authentic. That is
yeah.
tangible.
Can I just say something?
Sorry, Jan.
Can I just say something? Yeah. Again, we're misreading the report. As Julia just says, the report didn't say there was no racism.
No,
which is what we're talking about and reacting to. It said they couldn't find it. There's a difference. Now, if you look at
there
who
is, but
they
it's not
are,
institutional.
just a minute.
Yeah.
If you look at who they are, they're people like Julia just said, who are well off. They're affluent people. And in their circles where they go around, they're not going to find it.
Yeah.
So,
to the grassroots.
you know, in actual fact, they've written what they found. They didn't find it in what they're looking for, right? But if you look in the right places that we're talking about, you will find it.
Every day, we have
so we've got to be clear about what the report is actually saying and focus on the things that we need to deal with and not what affluent people feel about their lives. That's not the issue, and we're getting sidetracked into talking about them and you know how what their lived experience is. Yeah. Now, when the report talked about there not being overt racism or racism, it's talking about in terms of a political party, like for example, you know, because remember, this is coming from a European experience. So they're looking back at things like fascism, they're looking at things like Nazism, where those were political parties who were overtly going out there, being racist. You had Oswald Mosley back in the 60s here in the UK, who was overtly racist. You had the National Front, right? Yes. But at the moment, you don't have any political party, let's say, let's make laws that are going to be overtly racist. So that's what they're talking about. Now, is there people that, you know, whose lived experience suffer racism? Of course there is. They say that in the report. But let's not be diverted into barking up that tree. Let's look at the data and say, right, what are you going to do, government, about these disparities? There's obviously Asian people getting a raw deal, Muslim people getting a raw deal, Black people getting a raw deal. We're all paying our taxes, and the public services that we're paying for is not serving us. Look at the statistics. What are you going to do? We're not asking them that. We're trying to debate whether or not racism still is about, when the report doesn't say that. And we're not asking them the real questions we ought to be asking them and putting pressure on them to do something, to change the laws, to put in resources, to improve the situation.
Thank you very much for that. And conscious of time, you've been with us. And that's why I said at the starting as well, Anthony, that, look, you know, we need to look at and educate ourselves what this report's about, sit with people, how it's affected, right? And basically, sorry, I've just got somebody at the door. So yeah, so basically we said education is the key thing, you know, and I think we need to educate our youth as well, our generation, our own generation, I mean, and basically, you know, look at the report in detail and sit with people like yourself who understand it, because, you know, you're in that field. And like Amira, you know, they're in that field, and then talk to the right people in the NHS, how they have been affected, the police, and then show the counter argument to it that, look, this report is not right. You mentioned things, yes, there is racism, yeah, but it's not institutional racism. They're watering down racism, and like Amira said, we've gone back 20, 30 years, even more probably, right? Especially what the, you know, the Black people, especially who came before the Asian community. So, you know, basically they've seen it and they've worked hard, and they've seen brutality to make changes. And now suddenly that thing, it wasn't there. It's like a dream. It's been gone. So obviously it's not a dream, it's a reality. So
right now, sorry,
go on.
Right now, if I was the government, I would be very happy with what I'm hearing from people in, you know, in the community complaining about this report. I'd be very happy, because you know what? I'd be saying, look, I was under pressure because of all these COVID deaths of Black people dying, Asian people dying.
Yeah.
And, as a government, I would have had to have put a lot of attention into dealing with these issues as why so many Black people dying. Now, I don't have to do anything because they're all arguing about this report and telling me to get rid of this report. They're distracted now. I can get on with other things. Do you see what I'm saying? What people have to do is to wake up and understand that in order to get things done, you have to put your finger on it and say to and they've put the information out there in this report. There's data in there that says
that is
Asian people aren't getting this service.
Yeah,
but you've not picked it up and said to the government, hey, your report that you've published says that we aren't getting our service. Why aren't we? You're not asking them that. You're telling them, oh, get rid of the report. I don't want to see it. I don't want to read it.
No, we have to read it. And
that don't make no sense at all to me.
Can I just say, Brother Ahmed, forgive me, just on the background of what my colleague Anthony Brown has just said, and he's just reminded me of something very important that I don't want any of us to lose. That report is there for us to read, and that is the arrogance and the complacency of this government, because they've not even taken the time to address and read the report properly themselves. Anything that is produced in document is worth reading. You will find the disparities, and it's not too far to see. And that's what we need to use as a framework to address on balance, the disparity in which all our community of people are suffering from. That is the realization. And now I am not in the political arena as that, but I am very political about community. I'm very political about the community I serve and represent. And when I say that, what more does it take for another young child to die? What more does it take for another Black child to turn around and say, can you come and help because they've got me incarcerated? What about those who are sat inside prison now, who are not being allowed phone calls, who are being exposed to all kinds of atrocities? Nobody can get into support. Nobody can address that situation because it's being closely guarded by the people who are preventing us from doing that. We need to have a look at this system that has put those mechanisms in place to prevent people from speaking up. Now, if it takes my voice to be dubbed out, then so be it. But I'm here to say I am not prepared to sit here and listen to this nonsense of being cajoled or not told to march, this kill bill. That's taken away our democratic right to protest, to speak up. If we can't do that, what is this saying? Has this country become a capitalist country then? That is what we need to be asking. That is what we need to be asking. Our voices need to be heard. We need to come together. Whether you're white, black, blue, green, I do not care. If you feel that there's an injustice that is happening to you because of this system, let's stand together. Let's build a community that stands together, that goes forward together, that addresses all the concerns together, and hold this government to account. We are the people. We are a movement, and we need to go forth together and address these disparities.
Well done. Thank you very much. Can I get Amira back on for a few minutes?
Yeah, I was going to say that I think Julia, you made a really good point that oftentimes people at a grassroots level, at a community level, don't realise the power that we have as people as well. So we are here to hold the people who we elect to account. And it's about making sure that, once they're in those positions, that we are doing what we can to hold them to account, so they know that they are here as representatives of us. That is why they're in those positions. And I think we often forget that. And like you said, it's about working together. So like the work that we do as an organisation, tackling Islamophobia, is very closely related to the work that you do in terms of anti-racism. And it's about organisations like ours coming together. We have a very similar kind of end goal. Making our voices heard that way, as echoes of each other. Yeah, I just wanted to say that, Julia, on the back of your point.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for everyone. And I know It's been there's a lot more to talk about. It can't be happened in one event or one program on WhatsApp or YouTube. It has to be continuing in all circles. We have to work with these authorities, like Anthony pointed out, that we can wait 4 years and try to re-elect another government, and they might come back again and do it worse, right? Or we can engage and be in their face as a force, as a united force from all communities, like Julia pointed out, white, black, Asian, whoever you are. Let's all come together, and we need to basically be in their face. We have to engage with them and get this sorted out. You can't just, if we just sit on the outside and just shout from outside, nothing's going to happen. So we conclude with that message, that what Amira, I'm going to request yourself and Anthony and Julia that we will arrange a meeting, and Dr. Khan as well, and we'll get other people involved from the IO, that's the police complaints minority team, right? And they're independent to the police. So we need to know who they are. You need to know who they are, and let's bring them onto the platform, into that meeting. Like one of the Windrush generation representative yesterday pointed out to me that she thinks that will be more constructive. This is more of awareness, and that is a constructive way to get some action done. And that is my, I'll take that away as an action point for myself. And if everyone can take that away, let's come together and let's arrange a meeting, whether it's on Zoom or whether if opening, we pray that all this COVID, not everything goes away, and we're back with our freedom, our dignity, and our good health. And here I just want to conclude with Dr. Ziauddin Khan. Obviously, Ramadan Kareem is coming, so this is not to do with our topic. But Ramadan Kareem is coming, the blessed month of Ramadan. And as you know, normally it's a very communal get-together thing. But however, we have to be a bit sensible, obviously protect the majority. And whatever the data is, we just do our bit as precaution. And, the message of social distancing and, of course, to seek medical help. If you can just say a few points about this, it's the same message. It's all there. Any language you want it in, we can get it you. And like we say, that don't be forced into make any decision. At the end of the day, it's your choice. But make an informative decision. Find the data, like Anthony's got some data out. And there have been incidents. And there are people who, recently there was a death. So obviously, but that family came out and they said it was a rare incident, and we would encourage others to take, because even paracetamol have side effects. So whatever you take is on there. This forum is not to say to you, go and have your vaccine, right? This is about that, what as a medical doctor, how you feel, Dr. Ziauddin, and what the government or the council, our local council, Preston City Council, we work with Matthew Brown and others, and what their message is for Ramadan, for us especially. And now the opening, obviously, leniency in the lockdown is happening as well. What should we do?
Just a couple of points, few general health issues. One thing is that I would like to point out about 3 poisons which we are taking on a very regular basis, and all of us are involved in those. One is salt, other is sugar, and the third one is flour, like whatever the white flour we are eating in our diet. These are 3 white poisons which we are taking every day. We should try to change, especially in the month of Ramadan, and move towards avoiding salt, sugar, and change to flour, to the multigrain, which is a very good thing for the health. That's one thing generally for the health. For the diabetic patients, if their diabetes is not very well controlled, I think they should avoid making fast, because if they are fasting with poor diabetic control, then they are putting themselves to more danger. And especially when the people are on insulin, they should be more careful, and especially get the advice from their local GPs. Thirdly, when we come to the masjid during the month of Ramadan, especially in the Tarawih prayer, which is after last prayer of the day, social distancing should be maintained, and mask should be wear. And if the facilities are not adequate in the mosques or the masjids, then you should be try to avoid those prayers and do something at home to avoid that thing. So I think these are the vaccination can be taken during the month of Ramadan. There's no restriction on that. Any injection can be taken except for IV injections, which give you some energy, that can be avoided. But vaccination, any other injections can be allowed and can be taken for that.
Okay, so Hazrat, Dr. Saab, आप मुख्तसरन उर्दू में भी मैसेज दे दें, because obviously we pledge that to our audience as well. So just the message. Sorry about this. I know it's a bit rude to translate in another language and you don't speak it, but obviously there are elders who are listening and they need to know some advice about in Urdu about the fasting in the month of Ramadan.
जी बिल्कुल, मैं बता देता हूँ. एक तो ये कि जो मैंने पहले अभी बताया आपको कि 3 चीजें जो है हमारे जिस्म के अंदर जहर की तरह जाती हैं, उनको कोशिश करें कि रमजान के अंदर हम बदल दें. एक तो नमक, दूसरा चीनी का इस्तेमाल, और दूसरा जो आटा होता है, छना हुआ आटा, जो बिल्कुल वाइट राइस जिसे वाइट आटा जिसे कहते हैं, उसको आप रिप्लेस कर दें मल्टीग्रेन आटे से, जो यहाँ पे फ्रीली अवेलेबल है और इंतहाई मुफीद चीज़ है. और मैं तो उससे उस चीज़ को बहुत अब से इस्तेमाल करना शुरू कर दिया बहुत रेगुलरली. एक तो ये चीज़ हो गई. दूसरी ये कि वैक्सीनेशन आपकी कंटिन्यू रह सकती है रमजान के अंदर, उसके रोजे पर आपको कोई असर नहीं पड़ेगा, आप उसको कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं. तीसरी बात यह है कि आपको अगर शुगर है और ख़ास तौर पे आपको इंसुलिन लगती है, तो आप अपने डॉक्टर से मशवरा करें कि आपकी डायबिटीज़ किस हद तक कंट्रोल में है. अगर वो अच्छी तरह कंट्रोल में नहीं है तो आप बेशक रोज़ा ना रखें, बल्कि उसका फ़िदिया दे दें, अगर आप समझते हैं कि बाद में वो शुगर इस काबिल नहीं होगी कि आप रोज़े रख सकें. और अगर आपका डायबिटीज़ जो है वो टैबलेट के ज़रिए कंट्रोल है, तो आप रोज़ा रख सकते हैं, प्रोवाइडेड कि आपको अगर ये महसूस हो किसी भी वक़्त, यानी सबसे अहम चीज़ मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि किसी भी वक़्त आपको ये महसूस हो कि आपको ठंडे पसीने आ रहे हैं या आपकी तबीयत बहुत ख़राब हो रही है, तो इसकी वजह ये है कि आपका ग्लूकोज़ लेवल कम हो रहा है, तो आप फ़ौरन कोई मीठी चीज़ मुँह में लेकर रोज़ा अपना तोड़ सकते हैं. आपको कोई वो नहीं करना पड़ेगा कि बाद में आपको उसके कोई रोज़े रखने पड़े या और कोई इसके ऊपर करना पड़े आपको. एक तो ये हो गया. दूसरा ये कि अगर आप तरावियाँ पढ़ने जाते हैं या नमाज़ के लिए जाते हैं, जो लोग जाएँगे इंशाअल्लाह बहुत बाकायदगी से, तो उसमें अपना सोशल डिस्टेंसेस का ख्याल रखें, घर से प्रेयर मैट लेके जाएँ, अपने आप मास्क लगा के जाएँ, और इसके अलावा कोशिश करें कि मस्जिद से निकलने के बाद रात के वक़्त ख़ास तौर पे जल्दी से आप अपने घर आ जाएँ, क्योंकि मसाजिद के साथ बहुत सारे गैर मुस्लिमों के घर होते हैं, तो उसकी वजह से हम लोग बहुत ज़्यादा डिस्टर्ब कर देते हैं. और ख़ास तौर पे फजर की नमाज़ के बाद और इशा की नमाज़ के बाद इस चीज़ का ख़ास ख्याल रखें कि हम मस्जिद के बाहर खड़े ना हों, बल्कि फ़ौरन अपने घर आ जाएँ.
Jazakumullah khairan, Dr. Saab. Julia, would you like to conclude with your final words, please?
Actually, thank you, Brother Hamid. What I basically wanted to say was a couple of things. Is condolences to the family of Richard Okrionye and the family of Sarah Everard and Dame Lawrence. It will be coming up to the anniversary of Stephen Lawrence. Finally, to the Queen and the passing of Prince Philip today. I wish you all to stay well and stay safe. Thank you for inviting us to be on your broadcast this evening and raising greater awareness. I would like for us to come together. It's about joining forces. It's standing together in acknowledgement and being as one, as a community, irrespective of religion, gender, or creed. It's about the human race, and it's about what we can do going forward together and addressing the disparities once and for all. I thank you all and good evening, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Julia, for your time, and we appreciate all that time you have given and highlighted the plight of the Windrush generation and of humanity. So बहुत खूबसूरत मैसेज था इनकी तरफ से भी. आपने देखा है कि ये रेसिज्म जो चीज़ है इस्लाम में भी जायज़, और यही है कि हमने मिलकर ये काम करना है. और बेसिकली ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, विंडरुश जनरेशन और मेंड, और ऐसे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के साथ तावन करें, इनके पास जाए, इनसे सीखें कि ये मसाइल क्या हैं, और ये सब के लिए आम मसाइल बनेंगे. इंसानियत के लिए दुश्वार वक्त आएगा अगर हम मिलकर इसका सामना नहीं करेंगे, तो यही हमारे लिए प्रॉब्लम है. अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला का फरमान है कुरान में कि मैं हमने इसलिए आपको मुख्तलिफ जो आपकी नस्लें हैं या आपकी कबीले हैं, वो इसलिए हैं कि आपकी पहचान हो. अल्लाह के सामने वो ही है कि जो तकवा रखने वाला है. तो इसलिए हमने तकवा के साथ काम करना है। जो हमारे में भी रेसिज्म है उसको भी ख़त्म करना है। हमारे में भी रेसिज्म है, हम भी रेसिस्ट बनते हैं टाइम पर, तो हमने अपने पर भी देखना है कि हम क्या कर रहे हैं। और जैसे कि हदीस का मफहूम है कि अगर बुराई देखे तो हाथ से रोके, अगर हाथ से नहीं रोक सकते तो ज़बान से रोके, और अगर ज़बान से नहीं रोक सकते कम से कम दिल में इसको बुरा समझे। और रेसिज्म बुरा है, ये एक जुर्म है, और एक हमारे उलिमा ने फरमाया ये शैतानी जुर्म है। तो इसलिए जब शैतान ने ये नहीं किया था सजदा, तो इसलिए वहाँ से ये शुरू हुआ उसकी तकब्बर, और तकब्बर से बना ये रेसिज्म। तो इसलिए इसको ख़त्म करना है। और हमारे ये भाई हैं कम्युनिटी विंडरिच जनरेशन वाले, इनके साथ हमने मिलकर काम करना है इंशाअल्लाह। Anthony, would you like to? I'm just summing up a little bit about the racism issue for our respected elders. Majority do speak English, but we do have people listening in Pakistan as well. So because we've got 2 medical centers which the partners of Deepdale Community Association run for the poor and the needy, and various water projects and things like that. That's Me Madad Welfare, and basically they're partners with Deepdale Community Association, working in the community locally as well and internationally as well. So a message to them as well that we all need to unite internationally against this crime, which is evil. So Anthony, final words from yourself, please. And thank you for joining.
If people can see the picture behind me, it's a Chinese symbol, and it says love. And it reminds me of when I went back to Jamaica, where I was from originally. I went back to school in Jamaica, and Jamaica is made up of a range of people from across the world. So first of all, the Africans were brought there and enslaved, but then, people from India was brought there as what they called indentured servants. So we have a lot of Indians in Jamaica, and then Chinese came there, Syrians came there. So it's a population of
diverse,
all sort of people. Well, we don't say diverse, but our motto. And when I went to school, my best friend at school in Jamaica was Chinese. So that's why I've got that up there to remind me of it.
Right. It's a good message.
So our motto in Jamaica is "Out of many, one people." And so I would like us to think that, in Britain, we've all come from different places, just like they had in Jamaica. And so we've got a diverse path. But looking to the future, I think we need to be building a better future. And I think it should be a future where we say, out of many, one people.
One people. Thank you very much, Anthony. And we'll just go to Amira. Amira, if you would like to add a few words, concluding words.
So I'll make it quick, but I think that kind of for me, it's just about remembering what, as individuals, just as people on the ground, we need to understand the power that we have to make change. And change isn't going to happen for us or to us. It's something that we're going to have to work at. Whatever change we want to see as individuals, we will have to do something about it. Back to you, Kamran.
जज़ाकुल्लाह खैरन तमाम हज़रात जिन्होंने समात किया, समात करने वाले भी, और तमाम जो हमारे गेस्ट हैं उनका भी शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं. Thank you very much for all our respected guests who joined us, and it was a blessed program. And I think from here we will build bridges, work together, and like Anthony said, from all become one. Is that, Anthony, the message?
Out of many, one people.
Out of many, one people. So that's our message, and we thank you once again. And also I would like to thank Glenda, who was the main primary person who helped me arrange this event. And Glenda wanted to be on here, but she has been doing fantastic work and chicken in the getting some chicken and rice and things like that prepared for the the elderly and the people who are out there from the community. And they do this every Friday, and she's the main kitchen coordinator. So and she said to me that, look, please do send my apologies on the group and to the public, but she was the main person helping me to get this program. So we thank Glenda as well, and we thank all the Windrush team throughout the UK and throughout the world, and our Black Lives Matter team as well.
Can I just say one thing as to how profound this meeting is? Do you know, I've been in this country since 1967, and this is the first time ever I've ever sat down with a group of Asian people and had a discussion. First time ever. Can you imagine that?
That is sad as well. It is very obviously, all you know, I applaud you
so
for that.
There's a lot for us to do. It really is.
Yeah, and we need to come together and bring with the Chinese, with whatever color, whoever wants to come on and work for the humanity and bring us all together and spread peace and love and harmony, racial harmony, community cohesion and peace. That's the message of today's talk. And Julia, yeah, you're back in. We
just
normally go time anyway.
Okay, just one final thing.
Yeah,
if we can bear this in mind, we need leaders not in love with money, but in love with justice, not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity. And I will remind everybody who said that. Not only did his father say it, but it was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his son, who said that. And I think this is very apt. We need to realize that it's not about fighting against each other. We don't do that. We come from a place of love. We come from a place that is spiritual. We come from a place that is harmony through our culture, through our food. And it's a shame that the same division that is being used to separate people is the government, not us.
They're using the divide and rule policy, but we will not let that happen. Thank you very much to everyone. And like Julia pointed out, our condolences to the royal family, especially to the Majesty the Queen, of the loss of a great person. And basically, Prince Philip, he did a lot at the side of the Queen, and obviously our condolences, our thoughts are with the family, and all those the loss. Our thoughts are with Richard and all those who have lost their lives, whether in the pandemic or whether through crime or whether through natural death. And we conclude with that. Thank you very much to all our guests and all our listeners. Inshallah, soon we will bring you another event. This Sunday, Me Madad event is about Ramadan, preparing for Ramadan al-Kareem, and please join us with that as well. And that is at the same time this Sunday. Jazakallah khairan, everyone. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, Karam.
Thank you. You take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.